Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. You can see behind me we still have not had rain, but we do have irrigation going. That one looks like it fell overnight, but you can see where the irrigation has been. We're starting to get some green back, so that is good. We just don't have enough irrigation to do everything all at once. So it's going to be a long, slow process, but in the meantime, we are out grazing the livestock in areas where we normally wouldn't have grazed them. And so I'm just going to go out and check on the pasture and see how it is going. And hopefully we can get a few more days out of that area before we move them up into the woods up here. Look at the adorable little calves. There's 3 of them here. The 4th one I see is up under that pine tree. That's Patch's calf, and he doesn't come out of here very often. He stays in here for the most part. With Handsome, that's where Patches likes him. The other 2 kind of get into a lot of mischief, so they create a lot of havoc. Behind me, I have Handsome, who's trying to scratch his face because the mosquitoes are so bad. So we have this lane here set up beside what their normal pasture would be. You can see where they walk. And this is how we've been getting them out there. We open just a small area every day, and they have it mowed down better than a landscaper could do in this situation. So you can see that they are almost up by our dock, and we are going to move them. This fence is going to go that way, up into those woods, and then enclose this whole area again. Because this ground here was a swamp, and I use that term loosely because it really has only had water in it when we had the 100-year floods when we first bought this property. So that's why all those trees are dead, but it is lower ground in there, and I think that the ground is a lot better quality because the topsoil wasn't sold off. So the grass in there is actually somewhat growing back, and it gets a lot of shade there too. So the grass is growing back, so we will put the cows back in there as soon as we get them out of this, and it looks like this is done. We've never had this cleared out, so this is kind of nice. And this is actually, we're going to be putting in permanent fencing here, field fencing. And so we were able to utilize the cows so that we could get this cleared out so that we can put in the fence easier. Otherwise it would have been a beast getting through all the brush and shrubs and everything. But they have this mowed down pretty good here. In a normal rotational grazing situation, you would not want them to eat it down this much. But this is an area that we need to get in and get cleared out. And so we're letting them do the hard work here. And we're also letting them in here to graze in an area where they normally wouldn't graze, so that we can hopefully get our pastures growing again. They love it in here because there's lots of trees that they can rub on to keep the mosquitoes off. And the calves love to bed down in there because it's nice and cool. But you can see on top of all these mounds of dirt that the grass is growing back. So that is good. Once we get them grazed up there, I don't know what we're going to do if we don't have rain. We probably will continue to just graze on the outside of our normal fence, and because that's all woods, and then that would allow them to have shade and be cool, and they can eat all the trees and everything down. But we're really struggling here. We're talking about having to buy hay, and we just don't have the extra money to feed hay all summer because Owen just opened a new business, and so things are very tight financially right now. So I don't know what we're gonna do. What's really nice is that you can even see the pond from where I was standing before because it was so thick, and they've eaten all this down. And we'll be able to go through and pick up all this garbage that we never have seen or gotten to before. So that is good. Little calf. Hi, sweetie pie. Do you like laying there, huh? You can see it's kind of dug out a little hole. They do that. They'll throw dust up on themselves to keep the mosquitoes off, and then they kind of bed down in it, and it keeps them cooler, and it also helps keep the mosquitoes off their belly. So they still have some leaves here, not much, but picture all of this here with really thick, like can't see anything on the other side, and that's what that was like down there. So I would love it if they would eat this down a little more, but if they don't, they don't. I'm okay with that. We really just need to do what's healthiest for the cows, and it's really hard because in these areas that are really dense, there's not much to eat in there because the trees are so thick and so tight and they can't reach the tops. So I was hoping they would get that cleared out a little bit, but it doesn't look like there's really nothing that they can eat on this side at least. Hey, honey. That's a heifer right there. Man, she's gorgeous. She's looking so good. Hey, Mama. How you doing? Boy, you guys are doing good in here. Looks great. Oh yeah, they still have quite a bit of brush in there to eat down. Normally they would be moved long before this, but because we do have to be so conservative, I'm gonna let them stay in here for the day and move them tomorrow, and hopefully they'll get some more of this all eaten down. I see quite a bit over there. It looks like they're walking the perimeter where it's easiest and not actually going in to the woods to eat anything right now. So I'm gonna leave them here for the day. The grass I'm walking in right now is like 12 inches high. I know it's not as nutritious or good, but this is the area where I'd want them to graze down more, because we won't be able to mow in here, and hopefully they won't be back in here. Hi. You're pretty. There's all sorts of things like this metal bracket here that we had no clue, but are the things that you find on an old farm. So I have just been picking this kind of stuff up and then putting it all in a pile so that we can come back and get it easier later. And I noticed there's a pipe up there too, so I'm gonna get those. Don't drink my coffee, guys. So I'm gonna get this out and put it in the pile. Oh geez, that's big. Oh, that looks like an irrigation pipe or something. I know that they did have, back when this used to be a really big farm, they did have irrigation in here, so it doesn't surprise me. But it's funny how it just, you find all this stuff. This is probably, looks like a pipe with a whole bunch of T's off of it. So I'm thinking that this was one of the main lines, and they used to pump water out of the pond to irrigate, and this was the main line where everything split off for the different fields. And here's something too. I hope it's not big. Oh, it is. Great. I don't know if I'll have to come back for this one. All right, gotta come back. Gotta get this moved. Oh, and I dropped my glasses. This one's gonna have to be hooked up to something. I can't pull it out by hand. Wish I had some marking paint so I could mark it so that we could see it easier. So I'm thinking that if we don't get rain after we move them to the north side of the property there, we'll probably run this alley or run an alley back and go down that trail right there, which runs parallel with our pasture 2 fence, and we can run them through there for a little bit. The only thing I don't like about that is I don't want them getting used to going out of gates, and the gate we'd have to use is right there, and I prefer for them to only get out one gate. And that's their habit, because cows are very habit creatures and they like to do the same thing over and over. So I want to try to keep the gates for driving through and not for the animals to go through, because in the event like a storm happens or something happens and that gate gets left over, I don't want them to realize that they can get out of it. But we got to do what we got to do, I guess. And a little calf is nursing. And I see that it looks like they knocked over my coffee. I guess I didn't say don't knock it over, huh? Hey, honey. They're starting to lose their winter fur here, which is good. So you can see here, there's just all sorts of, old fence lines. It looks like there was something built here, maybe a little housing for their water pump. Hi, cutie. How are you? Can you say hi to everybody? Huh? I know I don't have treats, sorry. But I'll scratch you. Oh yeah. You like that, don't you? Those oaks are really pretty now that they pruned them. So when we bought this place, there was a beaver dam right at the start of our creek over by our dock. And we also had, like a week after we got in here, we had the first 100-year flood. We had 2 of them total. And because of the beaver dam and how it was just years of buildup, this was more, I don't want to say swampland, but it was swampy because the water was so backed up. And the state had come in and said that it had to be removed because of the highway and the roads on the other side of the highway. It's causing issues all the way back there. And once that got removed, the pond went back to normal heights. Last year it was a lot lower than normal. This year, I think because of all the snow and all the runoff, it is normal height right now. And so this is what it should be, and this was actually part of pasture and part of field before. So this is kind of a blessing in disguise, because we're able to get in here and put this perimeter fence for the cows up better. And we're probably getting more, because I would have done it right up there. when in fact we could gain another 50 feet, maybe even more. So I'm very glad that we're able to do this now. But I would much rather have rain and have them stay in our pastures too. So it is, there's a silver lining, I guess, to being in this drought and to not having any rain. So we will be able to fence in here. That's going to be our project for the next handful of days, is getting some fence up in here. So some permanent fence. And then my thought is, patches. My thought is that if it does flood or something, I can just use that perimeter fence and run temporary hot wire to where the edge of the water is, because we obviously don't want the cows in the water, and we don't want we don't want the cows in the water, and we don't want it to be mucky where they are, because we don't want them to get stuck in the muck. Huh. Looks like an old teapot? Tea kettle? Interesting. You can see where the sprinkler's been, which is good. This is the summer sacrifice pasture, and we have not locked them in it at all this year yet, because of the heat. And so we've wanted to make sure that they can get up in the barn where it's cool if they need to. So we haven't even moved the water trough or anything over here. So this is where their shelter if they need it, right there, obviously. And that's where their minerals are. And then they can go in the barn to cool off. They just cross the driveway there. And they have their water trough there too. So this is definitely not how I wanted the summer to go. Spending a couple hours every day moving the sheep and the cows, and it is exhausting. And looking at the forecast where 0% chance of rain, it doesn't even, most days when you click on it, it doesn't even give you like the option of there's a 1% chance. It doesn't even show up on the screen, precipitation. So we're praying for rain. We really need it. And that's where we're at. It just is, I have no words to even describe this feeling. This is our third year of having drought, and so far we're just at the beginning of June, and this is the worst that we've had. And we haven't been able to do spring cleanup. We haven't been able to get pumpkins planted. Mums arrived yesterday. Haven't been able to do that because we've been spending so much time moving the animals. And because the heat and the mosquitoes are so bad, it's miserable, and they're not happy either. So it just has been a rough spring. So I'm praying for rain and hoping that this helps improve us. I'm moving the sprinkler now, and we haven't even been able to plant our pasture seed because we went from flooding to instantly dry. So our pasture seed is still sitting in the shed waiting for us to plant it. And that really sucks because like there's no improving fields. Even with this irrigation, it's not healthy to plant right now when we only have 60 feet at a time that we can irrigate, and we have to move it every single day. Sometimes we move it twice a day when it's really hot out. It's interesting, I was talking to my dad about the problems with lack of rain, and he was telling me how my grandpa said that in the 30s, in the Dust Bowl, farmers from the south actually did cattle drives up to this area, and they drove their cattle into the swamps because although the swamp grass, it's reed canary grass, which is what we have pretty much everywhere the topsoil wasn't sold, is reed canary grass. It holds a lot of moisture, and the root system is really good for holding moisture. And it also, although it's not their favorite, grows back really quickly, and so it fills their bellies. So I kind of feel like we're taking a play from their playbook and running the cows through the area where we have that kind of grass. That's what's out back. We're not putting them in the swamps because I don't want to deal with stuck cattle or calves that get stuck or anything. But we are grazing them as close to the swamp or as close to the marshy areas as we can in order to take advantage of that moisture. That was not how I expected that video to go, but that is it for today's video. We really would appreciate it if you guys would pray for rain for us, because we desperately need it. And relief from the mosquitoes too. I'd rather have the mosquitoes and rain than anything else. Rain is what we need. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.